Mm, I think a lot of people get a chance to see me as this bubbly, happy-go-lucky, extravagant, extroverted individual. And very rarely do people get a chance to see me as in my quiet space. And it's not a bad thing. I just think that when I'm home, I feel like it's my sanctuary, and there's a different kind of peace that I'm exercising. And so people who aren't invited into my home don't get a chance to see that part of me. I've had a lot of incredible people in my life that have been able to offer me experiences and love and compassion in ways that I can't explain. And so, because of their love and because of their support, I found myself sort of pouring that same compassion, that same love, and that same energy into other people. And so, it's just the culmination of all the experiences and all the people that I've met, all the things that I've been through. Um, it feeds my soul to pour into others. And so I feel like that's just a part of my mission, and that's what I do. I feel the most misunderstood when I feel like I'm not being heard or people listen with defensive ears. I like to think that I'm pretty direct and honest. Um, but oftentimes I think my directness and my honesty is scary to people. So I'm misunderstood for my compassionate and or blatant honesty that can seem a little too forward and too pointed. I think sometimes I hear voices in my head of when I was a kid because I've always been openly who I am. But I remember when I would sing sometimes or I would show up in certain spaces, I was hearing voices say, he has a high pitched voice, he's gay, and so sometimes those voices come back in my head and they're not deafening and they're not like a defeating practice, but I hear them, and so I guess if they still creep up every now and then, I suppose I'm still healing from them. Space. I love being in my own company. I enjoy spending time with myself. Um, and as loud and extravagant and, you know, every which way that I am sometimes, I love quietness. So I think that's what I would need. Um, yeah. I don't really have any fears. I know that seems weird, but because I've learned to be the most authentic version of myself, I don't really feel too calculated. I don't feel like I have to be overly strategic. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to learn and to grow. So I don't know that I have any fears per se, um, to my knowledge. I have a best friend who's like a bro to me. And I think when you have people that loves you for who you are, you have people that understand that there's so many layers to how you show up in the world, um, and who continue to be present for you. It just makes you feel safe because you're like, I don't have to perform, I don't have to pretend, and I don't have to worry. And so I think of the many people and the many places and things in my life, that's where I feel safest. And one of those people is my brother. I try to feel like the most authentic version of myself in every present moment. Um, am I always perfect with that? Probably not. But I don't know. I think in every present moment, I like to give the best of who I believe that I am in that moment. So I think it's an every moment thing for me. Um, I don't really like when people try to tell me who I am, and I don't really like when people try to tell me what to do. And I think that the kid in me has always been explorative. And so when there are people in my life that lead in that way, I think that because I had a lot of sheltered experiences or experiences that were pressed upon me as a kid. My protective layer says, I don't want anyone to tell me who I am. I don't want anyone to tell me what I need to do. And I don't know, I guess not really giving people ownership of me. And I think in some way, even when it isn't that, but it reads that way, I'm working to ensure that people know that I'm my own person and I make my own decisions. Loyalty to me means trust without concern, knowing that there is a sense of safety, connection, there's truth, and being with people who I mentioned aren't calculated and being in places where you don't have to feel calculated and you have to pretend. Um, Exercising the greatest and worst expression of who we are in every present moment, I think, allows us to sort of lend itself to loyalty and to truth. Betrayal to me is if a person takes the time to scheme and like create a plan to degrade my character, to rally people around me in a negative light, and to sort of put me in a position where they're attempting to corner me. I would say that that's betrayal. Like we can have moments of disagreements. We can have moments where you say something that I don't like. But if you take the actual time to plan and to scheme and to create a presence or precedence around my character and my person, I will definitely feel betrayed. Um, I don't know that I would say I would be afraid, but I'm an open book. And I guess when I let people in, they will see that there's a pureness, there's a rawness. And as much as I try to be considerate and filled with intention and with love and compassion, there's also a person that's a little stubborn. There's a person that's a I don't always make sense. And my aggression is not in noise. I don't get loud, I don't argue. But some of the things that I do with people who really know me, um, maybe some of those actions can contribute to being misunderstood and disconnecting from others. I don't know that I'm afraid of people knowing something about me that would cause harm. But when a person is really close to me, I think there's a new level of vulnerability that I'm exercising. And yeah, I work in the field of advocacy and social justice. And sometimes I really enjoy pouring into others in a way where maybe it appears that I have nothing left to give to myself. Um, I'm the kind of person that will give you the shirt off my back. I'm the kind of person that will go without to make sure that other people have. And primarily because I've had incredible people in my life that taught me that sacrifice oftentimes looks like that. And not that I do that for every single person, but I'm intentional when I do it. And I feel like that puts me in a space where I'm willing to sacrifice in an effort to ensure that the world around me can benefit. Because in the end, I think that it's still feeding my soul, it's still feeding my presence, and it still gives me something to say that when I die, that's how I leave a legacy. Hmm. I think the love that feels the most natural is the love that I give to myself. And I know me. I know my flaws. I know how I process. I know how sometimes I don't make sense. I know how sometimes I'm not very nice. So the love that I give to myself is the most familiar and it's the easiest. The love that feels hard is sometimes when we as humans choose to show up and love people who haven't chosen to show up and love us. And so that sometimes is the hardest piece is you can be love and you can explore and share love, but sometimes when you don't feel that there's reciprocity, that can be hard. I want to be a pop star. Sometimes I think I look at videos of Michael Jackson in concert and Beyonce and Prince and Aretha Franklin and all these incredible humans, and you see these people screaming and you see the impact that they have. And I don't know that I necessarily want that, but I do love the way that you notice how they, when they do what they love, how it makes other people feel. And so I don't know that I haven't admitted it out loud, but in some way, it would be pretty great to be a pop star and to sort of rule the world through what I love to do and make people respond in the way that some of my favorite artists have made me respond to them in their artistry and their work ethic. I love really hard and I don't half ass anything. If I say that I love you and that I'm there for you, I'm very present. And I think that to some people that can be a little overwhelming. So if I tell you that I love you and I tell you that I want to be there for you, and if I tell you that you mean a lot to me, um, my emotional intelligence sometimes can be, for lack of better terms, overwhelming. So if they wish to stay long term, they should be willing to know that I'll always have their back, that I'll always be there for them, and that love will always live and breathe wherever I am, and certainly in their presence with them. Absolutely. I think a lot of people go through the world and it's so much noise. And it's beautiful to know that we're exercising the greatest expression of ourselves and figuring out what our gifts and talents are and how we can be used in different spaces. But being used doesn't necessarily mean that I'm worthy because people abuse and use you all the time. So, pending how we define and how we look at what it means to be used, how we look at it of being unused or unworthy, I think that every single person has something to share and give to the world. And when we tap into that, that's all that matters.